Faith here with a welcome toast. It was Charles Lamb who said, "A mixture of brandy and water spoils two good things." Please feel free to consume this show podcast in small bites or eat the whole thing.
I got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my feet. I feel that hot blood in my body when it drops. Ooh.
It's great to have you joining the party on the Faith Middleton Food Schmooze, inviting you to eat, drink, and be merry with us. We have a couple of wine discoveries, and these are red wines. You want to put a little chill on them. Great with grilled food, these two wines, one from Spain, one from France. And they are so affordable, so that is a treat. We have the book Dinner with DiMaggio, and we'll talk all about that. Mark Raymond has discovered a new soft-shell crab dish in Connecticut. If you're into soft-shell crabs, as all of us seem to be, this is the season, and we've got a new one for you. I know we talked about it last week, but we have a new discovery. I hope there's a little time for me to talk about a kind of shrimp scampi sauce for pasta and for other things too. All of that ahead. My treasured food buddies, more to the point, are here. Senior contributors Chris Prosperi, Alex Province, Mark Raymond, and Robin Doyen Aiken, our senior producer. Hey, everybody.
Hello. Hey, Faith.
Okay. I remember last year we tried this as an experiment. We want to share this with you right now, but to begin with, this involves rosé. It could involve another kind of wine, any wine, in fact. But can we say something about rosés? If you are someone who likes super dry wine and you don't know rosés, you think, no, that's that pink in the glass. That's not for me. Can you wine guys especially talk about rosé?
It's like white wine and red wine crossed with no sugar, served chilled. You know, the inside of a grape is totally clear, red or white grape. The only reason red wine's red is because they allow it to sit for a couple of weeks. You know,
with the skin?
With the skin.
Yeah.
So you take a red grape, press it really quickly, you separate it from the skins, and you just give it like a couple hours to turn this beautiful pink, and there's like a zillion colors.
I'm a red wine drinker. I'm also a white wine drinker. But what I love about rosé is it gives me the opportunity to drink
another
something,
color,
another color, but something that has a little bit more depth than a white wine, but yet not as bold as a red wine. It's refreshing, and it goes with so many different foods.
Yeah.
So why does it go with so many different foods? Because as we heard Alex describe, it's the pink, various shades of pink are coming from skin contact that's been left at different lengths
levels,
of time.
Right. It has just enough depth in texture that will work itself with foods that are fatty.
Yeah.
You know, so the things that we usually think of eating
Like
with
steak,
red wines,
burgers,
steaks and burgers,
grilled
fish,
food.
salmon,
you know, pork and lamb,
chicken.
you know,
or nothing
Rosé's
at all.
that
or
crossover.
just by
Or nothing
itself.
at all.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. Come home, chill it
on the porch.
on the
Absolutely.
The porch, Chris.
And I heard this new term this week, which I thought was absolutely hysterical. When you go to a restaurant or a bar, you ask for the high tide pour, not the low tide pour.
What's that?
The high tide pour. So you say to the bartender, "I want the high tide pour." It's
closer to
I
the
mean,
top of the
closer
glass.
to the top of the glass.
Oh my God, I'm going to say that every single
And I
time.
absolutely love that.
No, can we, before we get to this trick that we're going to talk about on the show that involves any kind of wine, this high tide, low tide pour, is anyone noticing when you go to a restaurant that the pour is getting shorter and shorter? Is anyone noticing this?
Or are the glasses getting bigger and bigger?
Right.
No, that is not the case in my case. You know, normally I'm not paying attention, but it's so short that my head snaps back and I think, are you joking?
A lot of restaurants are using the carafe, the 6-ounce carafe, so
Yeah.
that, you know, you can
No.
actually see you're getting a
Not
proper measure.
in my case, but
So
I
they're-
see that.
They're just
Yeah.
being
Right.
No, this
stingy.
is no. I don't think stingy. I think the restaurant, they know that the money comes from the bar, and so they're being so careful. But it doesn't transmit generosity.
Yeah, at my place I give a big pour. We don't make as much money maybe, but
Make people happy.
It makes you feel welcome.
Right.
If you get a teeny little glass of wine, then I don't know, that snap your head back kind of feeling, that's the way to set the night onto the wrong direction for any restaurant. It's so much worth it to see smiles on faces than to give a short pour.
So here's what's happening to friends of mine now, because we've all been talking about that we see this happening in restaurants. when we go to a place that does a generous pour, and it may be the waitstaff doing that, we will say to them, what a generous pour. We so appreciate it. And we will add $1 or $2 on the gratuity. So to come back to rosé for a second, Robin is someone who is just now getting into rosés. And so, Robin, what do you think about it?
I feel like rosés are very celebratory. It might not be a holiday. You might not even be at brunch or whatever, but they're very celebratory. The other night I had a rosé. It was probably one I took home from the show. And you know, like when you have Prosecco, you think nothing of dropping some fruit in there.
Yeah.
It's like, common.
Yeah.
With a rosé, it always gets a little better if you put a little strawberry in it. I mean, you don't overload it or anything. I'm not trying to have a wine cooler, but when I put a little fruit in there, I just feel like it adds to the celebratory nature of the wine.
No, that's good.
You just dress it up a bit, and then you get that nice little bonus at the end of the glass.
That's right.
I don't know why we have become ambassadors of rosé, but it is one of those things because we all like wine. We want to spread the wealth. We want to say to you, if you haven't tried this is not Zinfandel, pink Zinfandel.
Nothing.
No.
From years ago. I mean, nothing wrong with loving pink Zinfandel.
No, it's what you cut your
we
teeth
don't
on.
judge that.
Yeah.
Well, also, some people like sweet wine.
Yeah.
I love that people love that.
Your dentist doesn't love that.
We've had a Zinfandel White Zin on our list since we opened, and people love it.
But this rosé that we're talking about is not that. It is much drier. It feels like a celebration in the glass. You can get it sparkling or flat. You can get it in all shades of pink. All right. After all of this, you've been hanging on. I so appreciate it. What is the tip connected to this? It is rosé. I drink it all year with things because I just adore it. When it turns warm, rosé needs to be ice cold. It
Icy
is
cold.
gorgeous. Now,
Yes.
there are $100 bottles of rosé.
Right.
Tavel, is it Tavel or Tavel?
Tavel.
Tavel is a French maker. This is extraordinarily expensive and gorgeous, and I'm not talking about making this ice cold, but every other rosé that I can think of. I put mine in the freezer before serving. What happens, though, when you're walking around with it in your glass? It starts to get warm. So
hate
on
that.
the show, we
You're
invented...
not drinking fast enough.
And I'm a slow drinker. I'm in that camp.
So on the show, we invented something, I think a year ago or a couple
Yes.
years ago. We said, what would happen if we put rosé, we spend $10, $12 a bottle on rosés,
Right.
maybe 15, but, affordable. What if we bought 2 bottles and we put some in a couple of ice cube trays? They do freeze. And then when you're serving it to people, you put frozen rosé ice cubes in the glass. The rosé itself is cold when you serve it, but it stays freezing cold in your glass. It is so refreshing. And then at the end of your drink starts to turn slushy. Oh,
I
my
love that's my
goodness.
favorite part.
An adult Slurpee.
Listen, since you came up with this with the beer
Frozen
years
beer
ago,
cubes.
frozen beer cubes, I do this to white wine and beer now. And the other day I had a rosé. I was like, oh, I want an ice cube. And I put a white wine ice cube in there. And I was like,
I'm
that
sure it
works
worked
fine.
great.
But you know what?
Did
I'm
it
thinking,
work?
yes, it worked fine. But you know what I'm thinking? The
What?
other way around.
The red wine?
I should have
Rosé into white.
So I take your idea of the rosé cubes and I drop that in my either Pinot
White
Grigio or
wine.
Sauvignon Blanc. Get a little
Wow.
pink
You're making your
color.
own blend.
You're
How
making
cool
your
is
blend.
that?
I think you take Robin's idea, you put a raspberry or blackberry inside the ice cube tray,
and then you
now
get a
you have
little
a
bonus.
frozen blackberry inside the
Inside the
rosé.
I like
rosé
that, yeah.
cube.
And then
Very
when it melts, you get a
Alex.
bonus.
Now
Or
you're dressing
blueberry.
it up.
Yeah, it's only going to
Nice.
make it better.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah.
Plus,
And-
remember, Alex's relative has the mantra that you shouldn't baptize wine.
Yeah, my grandpa.
Right. So if you are making a rosé ice cube, then you are keeping your wine cold without baptizing it.
That's right. That's right.
So, the fun thing about rosé is they range in price from, generally speaking, between $10 and $15, and you can almost grab any of them. They are all so good.
Yeah.
You walk into the store, anyone's going to have, they should be fresh, like vintage. It should be 2016 at this point. The ones from Spain or France or Italy or
No,
California,
do you want
they're
them
all
to be...
good.
Oh, so you think anywhere in the world?
Most wine shops today are only buying really good ones. No one's buying bad ones. A $10 one or a $15 one are going to be so drinkable, so delicious. I rarely come across bad rosés.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
and they're coming from everywhere, like you said. It's
I have
just
a question for
incredible.
the wine guys, though. and this is something I've been doing at home in this $8 to $10 range. I spritz all my wine when I get home and I want to have a glass of wine.
Little splash of carbonation.
And I learned that from my parents. My parents
What do you
put a
mean?
little soda in their wine.
So
And
spritzer.
Spritzer, yeah. It's just soda water, nothing flavored, right? I have one of those tabletop carbonators.
Or club soda.
Or club soda, whatever. And I'm not talking about like half and half. You pour in your glass of wine, I throw in an ice cube, and then I just top it with maybe a shot or two of soda. And it gives it a little effervescence. It gives it a little bubble.
A little frizzante.
It cuts the alcohol a little bit, which is good in the summertime, right? Because you're drinking outside in the heat. I know we're not supposed to baptize the wine or whatever, but is it so bad to do that if it's really...
So here
Okay, go ahead.
comes a
Go ahead.
big
All right,
discussion.
go ahead.
Because as a party wine in the summer for a big crowd, I would go to, say, Segura Viudas Rosé, which is, as
from
Alex
Spain.
knows, from Spain. It's $8.99 a bottle, and I think it tastes just great. Looks great in the glass. Everybody's happy. It's fine. So why am I putting club soda in my rosé if I could, for the same price or even less, do this? What do you folks say, Alex?
So I just got back from Spain. Everyone on that pilgrimage was drinking white wine mixed with 7-Up.
See?
And
That's what
and
I'm
they
talking
call it
about.
like a rebulata, and because they drink
call
them,
it a what?
a rebulata. I'm probably butchering it, but
What does that word mean?
Where's
so it's
Matt
the
for-
name-
Where's the pronunciation guy?
so it's half 7-Up and half white wine, and they'll mix it and they serve it chilled. It's sort of like a Calimocho is a red wine and Coca-Cola that was popular.
This thing that Alex is describing is all over Europe, and we've talked about this
It's all
for
over the
years.
world.
It's all over
South
the world.
America does it like crazy.
Soda
Yeah.
and wine.
So why
Yeah.
do I feel guilty? And I had guests over once, and I did this for everybody, and everyone flipped out on me.
You know,
But why is it so bad if the
not.
rest of the world is doing it?
So it's not that it's bad.
Okay.
What I wonder about is how much sugar do you want in your drinks for the night? That sugar, I think, is going to make you feel very bad tomorrow.
But I'm not
So-
doing the sugar one, right? I'm only doing soda water, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and that's
Oh,
not as
but
bad.
he's doing-
he's doing
in
7-Up.
Europe-
They
in
do
Europe,
7-Up
they're
and
doing
Coca-Cola.
cola,
Yeah, yeah,
they're
yeah.
doing...
But I think the idea is they don't want all the alcohol.
That's
so it's
my
a way
point.
of
Cutting
having
the
a
alcohol.
cocktail.
But why are
And
they
so-
not doing club soda? That's my
Well, that
my
would
point.
work too.
Yeah,
Well,
but I
and
guess
that is one of the biggest jokes in South America is that everybody in Argentina takes their red wine or their white wine and they blend it with soda.
Club soda or
Club
sugar soda?
No,
Yeah,
they
soda,
have
club
what's called sifon, and it's
Soda
sort of
water.
like
Well,
those
then
old gas bottles.
It's a spritzer, what we
Yeah.
call a
Yeah,
spritzer.
it's making a
Caseta.
spritzer. And it's so funny because the Chileans will always pick on the Argentines and say they don't really drink wine; they drink wine with soda water. So why did they even make it? You know, so
Why
it's
is
what
this-
they
So
do. It's
the
part
problem
of their
is,
culture.
Go ahead.
in my
What is the
opinion, is
problem?
if you have guests over and you're spending a lot of money on like a very fancy bottle of white wine, and then someone dumps something into it, that's different. But if you're just taking a $10 or $15 bottle of really wholesome, simple white wine, chilling it icy cold, adding some soda water to it,
freshen it up a
Ah,
bit,
and let me-
because that's what you want.
Wait a minute. Let me preface this with this is not what I'm serving with dinner. This isn't the nice bottle like what you just said I opened up to go with the food. This is just people are just coming over to the house. It's a hot day, and I'm just giving you a nice little thing to sip on.
Let's add in terms of heat and safety.
Yeah.
People are drinking over the course of hours. Yes, you're having food, so it's being absorbed by the food, the alcohol content. But people have to drive home. And so
Right.
everybody's thinking about, I want to have the lightness of a little bit of alcohol with the spritz of the spritzer. They
And a
want to
pretty
have,
glass.
yeah,
It looks
I
nice.
know I'm
Right.
going to have real wine with dinner.
Yeah.
And who knows what after dinner. And so people are being conscious, and that's got to be a good thing.
Yeah. I
You know,
like it.
for
I'm
all
gonna
kinds
keep-
of
You know what?
reasons.
People made fun of me that night, but I'm going to keep doing it because I
Who
like
made
it.
fun of
All
you?
my
Fun of
guests
you.
were kind of poking fun, like you're a chef. You're putting soda in wine. I'm
No.
like, and ice cubes. No, I did both. Right? Wait, I did soda and ice
Sounds
cubes.
refreshing.
And it was just, and again, this wasn't the. And I had wine on the table. They could see we were going to have wine and with our food, but this was just the little like.
You need new friends.
Yeah, no,
Life
I,
is
I,
too
no, I need to
short.
take my friends and really get them to see that life is too short.
Now they
Come on,
know.
If they're
enjoy
worrying
it.
about
Now they
and,
serve
and
you.
we did have great wine with dinner, so
Well, I don't think you should feel the least.
no, I'm not
bit-
going to anymore.
I think you should keep doing exactly what you're doing.
Thank you.
Because I'm not just being nice. I think it makes sense.
There's nothing wrong with it.
It gives it a little party feel, I think.
And I'm
It's
going to
like
do
that.
the ice cubes
There's
with the
nothing
little
wrong
fruit
with
in
that.
there too, because that's
wrong with
even
it.
better. Right? A little ice cube with fruit in it, and boom, I'm in.
In our next segment, we want to talk about, we've got a couple of wines. We've really a lot of wine talk. We've got a couple of great wine discoveries coming your way. These are both reds for grilled food, and they are terrific even as the weather heats up. We want to also talk about a soft shell crab plate discovery in Connecticut. Oh, did it get a good review? And they're still in the market if you want to make them at home or get them in restaurants. Oh, if you love them, or maybe you've never tried them before, give it a shot. More mouth-watering conversation and fun ahead on the Faith Middleton Food Schmooze. I hope you will make a charitable contribution to feed the hungry. We're online now at foodschmooze.org, and we'll be right back.
Beans and cornbread. Beans and cornbread. Beans and cornbread. Beans and cornbread had a fight. Beans knocked cornbread out of sight. Cornbread said, now that's all right. Meet me on the corner tomorrow night. I'll be ready. I'll be ready tomorrow night. I'll be ready. I'll be ready tomorrow night. I'll be ready. I'll be ready tomorrow night. That's what Beans said to cornbread.
I'm just like, I'm in the studio, this music is playing, and what am I doing? I'm looking at our shoes. I'm looking at...
I got new ones.
So Alex is normally wearing loafers, and today he's wearing his sneakers. Chris always wears his clogs, surgical clogs. You can actually put them in the dishwasher to clean them. Mark is wearing sort of classic, traditional, chic Euro loafers.
Thank you for noticing.
I loved them.
And I am wearing my new
Mustard yellow.
I like the mustard
yellow.
I was going to say something earlier.
Shoes from Fly in London. I just love these. Robin, I can't see what shoes do you
Put
have
your
on?
feet up.
I am wearing Black Mary Janes because I am a classic kind of girl.
All right, that's good. So here's the deal. You can sign up for our free podcast, which means a copy of the show, and we'll send it to you in your inbox. It'll just come to you in the mail. And you can listen on your schedule. It's that simple. You go to foodschmooze.org. I'm with my buddies. When I say treasured food buddies, I mean it. Chris Prosperi, chef and co-owner. I'm going to work until they carry me out of here in a box. Why? Because I love you. I love you. I love you.
I'm
I
hugging you right now.
bear.
You're the best, Faith.
I can't bear the thought of being not in your presence. I am with the Treasured Food Buddies, Chris Prosperi, who is chef and co-owner of Metro Beast Restaurant in Simsbury, Connecticut, wine broker Alex Province, Mark Raymond, wine broker also. Anthony DeSario will be back with us soon, and we are about to talk about soft-shell crab. Some people don't like them. It's too weird for them. It feels like you're eating an insect. Okay.
I don't get
I
that.
love them. I love them.
I love
Mark,
crab to begin with.
Don't
so.
look. That's
Mark
what I
has
tell
a
people.
discovery. Go.
Yeah, so we had finished up a spring concert that my daughter was doing at the high school, and we went out to dinner. And
Is this Wethersfield?
No, this was West Hartford. We were in
Okay.
West Hartford Center. We scooted over to Max Oyster Bar, and they had this soft-shelled crab, pan-seared, lightly dusted, and then it was served over a roasted tomato and fennel polenta.
Sounds awesome.
It was so delicious, and I took a picture of it, and
And we have it on the website.
absolutely delicious.
I got to suggest a dozen oysters if you're going there first.
We had those first.
Yeah,
We
'cause
did. We
And
had
a
that's-
bottle
I
of
mean,
rosé.
Yeah, and a
Yes.
bottle or yeah.
Or Sancerre.
Yeah.
Well, we
I
actually
love
had a
those.
bottle of champagne, but
There you go. You're celebrating.
Oh.
gotta have some champagne.
Okay, so that is posted right now at foodschmooze.org, and so are the wines we're about to talk about. These are two reds One kind of has a whisper of the fruit in it, and it's lovely in the mouth, friendly, kind of a little joyousness. That one's from Spain. The other wine, these are both affordable. The other wine has a note of strength in the background. So if you were doing grilled steak, a little velvet elegance to it. And it's a wine we've had on the show before, and I think it is just terrific with meats on the grill. So, okay, let's start with, and by the way, you know what we have coming up in our next segment? We've got Dr. Rock Positano. He's got a book out called Dinner with DiMaggio. He became great friends with Joe DiMaggio.
I can't wait to talk to him.
He's an incredible guy, and he's one of the great specialists in how to care for people's feet. So there are a lot of athletes. That's
Speaking
how
of
he
feet.
knew. That's how he knew.
That's why you
how
were
he
looking
knew
at
Joe
her shoes.
DiMaggio. That's how. So he's amazing. He's one of these people who is a rock star because he saves people from surgery. Everybody thinks I've got to have surgery, and then you go see this guy. He'll send you to surgery if you have to, but it's the last resort. But his stories, Joe DiMaggio, unbelievable. And he loves food. So we're going to talk about food for the most part. Okay, this is called, we did Baron de Lay. Mm-hmm. And Mark, it was one of my favorite wines of the year. And it was, which Baron de Lay?
We did the Rioja Reserva.
This is Baron de Lay Tempranillo 2015. This is on our website, foodschmooze.org. So this is a little less elegant, but I think, wow, I really like this.
This is an interesting style. This is what would be considered a Hoven style, which really just means it's not aged in oak for so long. And so it's 6 months in all-American oak, which is great for Tempranillo.
So Rioja region of Spain.
Yep, all from Rioja. And it is just a fresh, easy drinking style of Tempranillo. When I think of grilling, I usually, there are a couple of grapes I think of. I think of Malbec and I think of Tempranillo.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many more, but these are two grapes that I always kind of
if
fall
you
back
have, I like to do these reds as we approach summer because there are people who don't like white wine. They just prefer red, but it's tricky. What goes with vegetables on the grill? What goes with meat on the grill?
Yeah.
So that's this. The price would roughly be
about $12 a bottle.
Okay, so this is Baron de Lay.
Yeah.
It's the Tempranillo, not the Reserva that we talked about last time, which is a little more expensive. So for around $12, great, goes with everything on the grill.
Can I put an ice cube in that?
You can definitely
Because
put a
this with little
Tempranillo
chill,
ice cream.
right? Or a little chill with it, right?
Put it in the fridge for a little while beforehand.
Yeah.
That's what I do. In
Do you
the
do
summer,
that in the summer?
My
with these?
red wines, people will say 10 minutes. I leave mine in there for an hour.
Good for you,
I want them cold.
Yes.
And
Especially
they
on super
And they
warm
warm
days.
up anyway.
And they still
Yeah.
go great with the steak, even though
Right,
they're
Alex.
chilled, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the label on that wine, if you brought that to, like a picnic, it looks expensive. Beautiful label.
Yeah, nice
So
package.
elegant.
And
Wonderful
really,
package,
it's at somebody's house, right, Alex? You
Doesn't
want to
look
bring
cheap at all.
something that tastes great, so you feel proud. I
Yeah.
think this is in that price category.
I think it's a steal.
Terrific. Really.
Total
Excellent.
steal.
At our website, foodschmooze.org, it goes with everything.
Everything.
Okay. Now, we're going to jump over to this other selection. And this was on the show before, but I think this is a great summer drinker for grilled meats.
I
And
love this
it's
one.
this isn't the other one was a Mark discovery. This is an Alex Province discovery. Domaine le Clos de Lumieres. So is it House of Light?
Yeah. In the wine industry, Clos is just a walled-in vineyard, but they have a religious Clos on the label. So
Yeah, so House of Light. Now, this is a Côte de Rhone. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so the south of France, so in the north, it's really steep and rocky and terrace. And you come down to the south, and it's just like what you envision south of France to be, like cypress trees and lavender growing and these rounded hills. It's so romantic. And thinking of like bicycles with baguettes sticking out. I mean, so I just love the south of France. And this is like one of those bottles that you would just have like at a cafe. It's just wholesomely made. It's a Spanish grape Grenache, and it's blended with a little bit of Syrah. And this is something Matt and I would have at home on a nightly basis. You would do this with like lamb chops on the grill. You would do it hamburgers. for $14, this is like those wholesome wines that aren't made with anything artificial, but like are just such good values and nice wine to have.
It's so fresh. It's so juicy. I love that it comes with a stealth enclosure, so
Easy
it
to
makes it
open.
really accessible. Stealth enclosure, the screw cap, so you can just take it with
That's
you on
one of my
picnics and
favorite
things like
things
that,
now.
which I absolutely love.
I do too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Man.
And a chill. I would definitely keep this in the
Absolutely.
refrigerator.
Or if
That's
you're
our
going
theme
out
for
on your
the day.
picnic, you put it in the cooler with your ice, with your beer, and you just chill it down, and it's ready to go.
You can hear that we are all fans, and we drink lots of wine. We're all fans of putting your reds, and when it gets to be this weather, in the refrigerator.
There's only one thing that hurts a wine, and that is heat. If you go to a wine shop and it's summertime and you keep the wine in the car with the windows rolled up, you will cook a wine and you will make it undrinkable.
Bad, very bad.
But putting a wine in the refrigerator does not hurt it. I mean,
Not
as
at
far
all.
as the structure of the wine, it makes it much more refreshing, but it will not hurt the wine.
Not at all. Not at all.
So better
Interesting.
to, if you are going to a picnic and you can't put it on ice, maybe you can, but if you can't, really put it in the refrigerator for an hour or two.
It's a great
and
idea.
then put it in your picnic carry-on. And then off you go in the car, and it's, starting to warm down, but it's had that chill on it.
Still has that chill, yeah.
But I like drinking it with a chill on it in the summer. And these are two wines that can stand that chill. You know how there are white wines and you can over chill something? There are champagnes you can over chill. I love cold champagne. But there's a point you cross with some of these
Agreed.
things have delicacy where you can't taste all the complexity.
right.
With these red wines, there's a joyousness or a tannin in the background that just says, sure, chill me up and I'm going to be good in the glass. And it warms while you're holding it.
It's
right?
it's gonna warm up naturally, and you're gonna get all those flavors and nuances.
I love
as
the
it happens.
condensation on the outside of a wine glass. You're at a picnic. And
Oh,
you just,
yeah.
it's dripping down. Oh, so
You're at a
refreshing.
concert, you're one of these concerts.
Picnic or Tanglewood or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so both of them, Baron de Lay, Tempranillo, and Domaine le Clos de Lumieres, which is really a wine from the south of France. Both of them red. These are $12 to $14, $15, really in the affordable price category. Could be weeknight wines for you, could be something you could proudly bring to people's houses. At our website, foodschmooze.org. You know how this goes. You know how to spell food. Schmooze, I can help you. SCH like school, right? MOO like the cow?
Right.
ZE.
ZE.
So it turns out that this little thing that I invented on the show to explain it to you, Chris says he uses it
I
all
use
the time.
it all the time when people ask me how to spell it, and I say that because it just
it's
it
a
works.
good
Yeah.
mnemonic.
Moo. It works.
So I was thinking the other day about making I love shrimp scampi. I don't know about
Oh,
you.
yeah.
I was thinking about how do we do a shrimp scampi sauce to put on anything, to put on these vegetable noodles that we're all making now, to put on rice, to put just with the shrimp itself that can work, as the weather heats up. It's just a delicious thing. And so how would you all do it? I like it with a little bit of breadcrumbs, whether they are regular or gluten-free, sprinkled on the top
Gives a
just
little
before
crunch.
serving. I like to serve it on a little bit of pasta or rice or couscous or whatever you've got. Some people will just do it on the plate by itself. What?
Few pepper flakes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Not to for it to be hot, but
Slow
to give
buzz.
Just
it
to give it a little spice.
background,
Yeah,
right? It's like,
just a little bit.
okay, so
My mother-in-law makes them, and she uses it. She'll actually take the shrimp and bread them with the Ritz cracker crumbs, and then she'll
That's
put
a
it
good
into
way.
the oven and bake them there, and then add them to the sauce
And
afterwards.
just let them soak.
No.
Yeah, let
Yeah.
the sauce soak into the breadcrumb.
Exactly.
Now,
No.
I want to
Exactly.
meet her.
wait a minute, yeah.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
come we haven't been invited to that thing?
Yeah.
Well,
All right, wait.
You are invited.
How
Consider
does
yourself
it,
invited.
Does she dip it in egg first before the Ritz cracker
No.
comes?
No.
What?
She
What?
just rolls it right into the powdered Ritz.
the wet shrimp.
The wet shrimp into the, and then she puts them on a baking sheet.
And when
puts
you're
them in the
baking them-
oven for about 5 minutes.
minutes.
That's it, because you just want them cooked enough
Pink.
So when you put them into
Light
the sauce,
pink.
they finish cooking, and you don't want them overcooked.
A
And
drizzle
they're
of
so-
olive oil or anything?
And that
No,
Ritz-
just dry.
The
dry
Ritz
into the
cracker.
I'll
oven.
think of, now, do you remember how she makes her little scampi sauce on the stovetop?
Oh yes, so
Okay.
the olive oil and then the garlic.
Garlic.
And then
Sliced garlic.
don't let it get too brown because you want the aromatics of the garlic, but you don't want it too roasted.
Yeah.
And then she'll throw in some butter. She'll throw in some capers.
So olive oil with just a touch of butter for flavor, right?
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
And
She
then
throws in capers.
She throws in capers. Got to have the capers.
Would she put chives?
She'll
Because
put-
I would.
I don't. She does not.
Okay.
She does
Parsley.
put in a little bit of lemon zest at the end.
Parsley.
Yeah.
Gotta
just
have
to give it a
parsley.
little
Lemon
touch.
juice?
Yeah. No, not lemon juice. Lemon
Just
zest. Just the
oh.
zest of the lemon, and then parsley to finish, of course. Fresh parsley.
Fresh parsley from the garden outside.
Yeah.
Grows all year.
Exactly.
And then with pasta or what? With
Well, with we usually
just
use
the
the dry
shrimp?
pasta at my mother-in-law's, but I totally would do this over the zucchini noodles. I think it would be fantastic over zucchini noodles.
And you can now
haven't
get
tried
these
that yet.
noodles in the supermarket already done.
That's pretty cool.
Or you can do them yourself. I have one of the
Spiral.
How long do they take to
spiral
cook?
ones.
Not long at all.
Oh my
Oh,
god!
Just like
nothing.
flash cook them?
Yeah, I would just
Yeah.
no, I wouldn't cook them all. I would just heat them up in that sauce. Just
right.
put them
Yeah.
in the sauce and let
I
them warm
do
up.
because I like to brown them a little bit. So I do them in olive oil and I brown them up because I just like that texture, that little bit of crunch in there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I mix with your things with
Oh,
the
yeah,
sauce.
with the sauce,
Throw them in the sauce. Kind
It's
of thing.
funny because we were talking about this on the trip to Spain. Matt was asking the difference between like scampi and gambas al ajillo.
Yeah.
So it's like one's oven, one's on the
Yeah,
stove
what
top.
is that?
So gambas al ajillo on the stovetop, and
So
you don't even have
that's-
to cook them like super hot.
That's a Spanish thing.
Oh, so good.
Portuguese, Spanish,
Portuguese with a big thing of crusty bread to soak up all the olive oil.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness, I'm just going crazy. All right, what do we got next? You know what we have? We have dinner with Joe DiMaggio. Dr. Rock Positano is our guest. He's going to talk about where he eats in New York. And man, does this guy like food. We love the local. Please support your local food growers and food makers. For a podcast copy of the show free to you in your inbox, go to foodschmooze.org, and we'll be right back.
Tell the cow and Joe DiMaggio. Don't say it ain't so. You know the time is now. Oh, put me in cold. I'm ready to play today. Put me in cold. I'm ready to play today. Look at me. I could be centerfield.
He started baseball's famous streak that's got us all aglow. He's just a man and not a freak. Joltin' Joe DiMaggio.
This is the Food Schmooze Party, offering the richness of life and coming to you in Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and New York, including in New York, of course, Westchester County, the east end of Long Island that meets the Hamptons. The senior producer is Robin Doyon-Aiken. To hear this show on WNPR, it airs Thursdays at 3 and Saturdays at noon. You know, I say that Saturdays thing that way because so many people on Saturdays plan their shopping outings around the show. And if we say something about a discovery, they go get it on the show, which is something we adore that here. So the show airs Thursdays at 3, Saturdays at noon. Podcasts, which means free copies of the show that we'll send to you, are curated recommendations of food, wine, and cocktails, always online at foodschmooze.org. Now, here's the thing that I've been waiting for in the show. There is a guy, and his name is included in this. He's a rock star, not only in New York, but really in the United States as one of these genius foot doctors. And if you go into the waiting room, you see every imaginable star in so many sports, great chefs from the food world, people from all walks of life, because what he does is find a non-surgical solution for people who have foot problems. You might think, what is this doing on the Food Schmooze? This Rock Positano has been on the show before when the show was the Faith Middleton Show, and we were talking about feet health, how that connects to knee problems and hip problems later in life. On and on we went, and it was a huge hit on the show. Now, I know that he is a huge food lover. What comes into my office? He writes a book because he became very close friends with Joe DiMaggio. Wow. Now, certain people of a certain age on the show are going to say, yeah, I think he was a baseball player, and blah, blah. He was one of the most amazing, iconic baseball players.
Absolutely.
Married to Marilyn Monroe. I mean, everything about this guy.
Very cool.
So I want to talk to Rock Positano about his love of food and wine, and then switch off into his world with this book and Joe DiMaggio, what caused him to tell this story. Dr. Rock Positano in New York, welcome to the Food Schmooze Party. Welcome back, I should say.
Thank you so much, and it's really a pleasure listening to you guys talk about all the finer culinary things in life. You know what I mean? And of course, Faith, being a foot specialist, as you can imagine, there's nothing that contributes more to the development of gout than great wine and great food.
That's right.
We keep you in business.
Down the road, I think all of us should start the Gout Club, which that should be connected to which great restaurants in New York or around New England can give you the best case of gout.
Wow.
The gout scale.
The gout scale.
The best. I used to, by the way, Rock Positano, Dr. Positano is in his office, and so you might hear in the background these, medical type things, but I'm calling you Rock because I do, but I mean Dr. Positano. You and I used to talk about Rayo's in New York. Where are you eating? What are some of your favorite places in New York?
It's interesting how the landscape has changed in the city. I find a really, really good place is Campagnola, which is a great restaurant on First Avenue in the Upper East 70s. Campagnola has a very good feel to it. The cuisine is excellent. It's not very heavy. The food is prepared in a very, very distinct way where it's not overbearing, so people don't walk out of Campagnola feeling like, oh, my goodness, you have to wheel me out in a wheelbarrow. It sort of took the place of Bravo Johnny, which, as you know, was a great restaurant back in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s that closed down because of the unfortunate passing of Johnny Garvelli. But Campagnola has become the more upscale place on the Upper East Side. Another really great place is downtown called Giorgione. Excellent, excellent wine list, excellent selection of food. Again, not very heavy. They tend to be more, quote-unquote, specialty Italian, but not overbearing. They do have, traditional things like steak and veal and chicken, but I think Giorgione is another one of those places, Faith, that people, if they gave it a try and a listen to, would probably love it. It's a great restaurant. And actually, the fellow who runs the place, A.J. Catalfo, great front-of-the-house person, makes everybody feel like they're part of the family, and it's a really great dining experience.
I'm writing these down.
Yeah.
Because you read about some places in New York, but those are only the ones that the hot place or whatever. And these sound like the in places for people from the city.
The thing about this is that a lot of the people that go to these places, these are people that are very high profile, that want to go to a restaurant where, number one, the food is fabulous, number two, the service is fabulous, but number three, they're left alone in peace to enjoy their dinner.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, another one, which is one of our favorites, which was one of Mr. DiMaggio's favorites, was Lattanzi, which is on West 46th Street on the west side in the theater district. And Lattanzi is an excellent restaurant because it has the Roman Jewish cuisine of the Roman ghettos.
Rock, we have never talked about this before, that I didn't know that you were a lover of Lattanzi the way I am.
Lattanzi is one of the best places around because, as you know, Faith, the food is very different. It's not your classic, typical Italian food. It's got a different flavor to it. It has a different lightness to it. Lattanzi has been run by the Lattanzi family for the past 30 or 40 years. They have an excellent maitre d' there by the name of Eddie Costner, who knows all 2,000 patrons that come in. He knows the drink you like. He knows the table you like. But more important, Faith, he knows if you don't like somebody, not to sit you near them.
And that's important.
So Latanzi has a dish. I don't know if you ever try this, Rock, where I think it's the chicken and avocado. Is that what that dish? It's the merging of what happened in Rome when Jews and Italians were mixing and the cuisines mixed. This is a hard thing to find, and here is a restaurant that specializes in this. So if you're going to theater, there are a couple. One is in Little Italy, kind of, which has now become part Asian. But Latanzi is a great place to go.
I'm writing all these down.
So
because
glad you
I am
mentioned
too,
it.
yeah.
These are all new places for me.
Okay, so now I'm going to flip this because Rock Positano's book, he is, as I mentioned, a kind of rock star in the health of the foot. People with serious foot issues who are normally about to go into surgery end up in his office if they're lucky, and he has these techniques which save you so often from surgery, though he will honestly say, no, I think you should have the surgery if you should have it. The place is loaded with people whose feet are stressed for a variety of reasons, chefs and athletes. And speaking of athletes, what happens is that Rock Positano becomes really close friends with Joe DiMaggio. The foreword of his book by Francis Ford Coppola, the book is called, here's how it's on the Food Schmooze, Dinner with DiMaggio. So, Rock, how did you become close friends with him? I know from the book, but go ahead.
As you know, he had a world-famous sports injury, his heel spur, which, as you recall, was internationally renowned. Ernest Hemingway wrote about it in The Old Man and the Sea, and that plagued his career during the late 40s, and he had a surgery of his heel, which unfortunately did not yield the best results, and it caused a lot of pain and discomfort for Joe. I mean, he admitted himself that this caused a lot of his problems during the last few years of his playing days. And fast forward many years later, he is very friendly with Bill Gallo, who was the famous New York Daily News sports cartoonist, and he was complaining to Bill one day about his heel was still bothering him 30, 40, 50 years after he had his operation. And Bill said, you know, Joe, I know this really nice kid. He grew up in Brooklyn. He finished up his studies at Yale. He did a lot of work on treating people's musculoskeletal problems without surgery. I think you'd get along with him. He'd be someone you may even want to hang out with because, you know, he tends to be a lot of fun, but the most important thing is that he knows how to keep his mouth shut, which was very important to DiMaggio, as you can imagine. So Bill calls me up and says, look, Rock, drop him a little note. So I figured, you know, what the heck? I was very respectful, Faith. I said, Mr. DiMaggio, my name is Rock Positano. Our very mutual dear friend Bill Gallo asked me to drop you a note. That night, I get a call from the receptionist and says, Rock, you're not going to believe this. There's a guy up here, impeccably dressed, who looks just like Joe DiMaggio. So, of course, I run out of the office, and there he is. He looked like an Adonis. I was very careful. I was very formal with him because I knew Mr. DiMaggio did not like people to call him by the name Joe. I said, Mr. DiMaggio, it's a pleasure to meet you. And the rest was history. I mean, after a few months, I got him well. I took great care of him. And after our doctor-patient relationship ended, he just dropped by one day and said, listen, hey, Doc, why don't we go grab a cup of coffee? And took a liking to me. I took a liking to him, and we just hit it off well.
Yeah. So what's the side of him, Joe DiMaggio, that was really interesting to you in terms of what people didn't know about him?
What I always found amazing about Joe, and the reason why we named the book Dinner with DiMaggio is because there was a whole different Joe DiMaggio that would sit down at the dinner table. Eating dinner with close friends and family was sacred to DiMaggio. And the way to understand Joe was to actually be able, or to be fortunate enough to be able to sit down at the dinner table with him and have something to eat or something light to drink. It became a whole other experience. This was a cultural thing, coming from an Italian background as he did, growing up in the Bay Area. They were very much into family. And, of course, you know, the famous Sunday dinners that Italians have had for hundreds of years really went into full effect. Joe would open up and talk about everything. He'd talk about life. He'd talk about people. He'd talk about sports. He'd talk about his family. He'd talk about the stock market. And one of the things that we found about the experience when we did the book, there were three things that were for sure. Number one, the book, Faith, was not about baseball. Number two, it was not about Marilyn Monroe. And number three, it wasn't a tell-all book.
Yeah.
So we basically went over thousands and thousands of notes of all the dinners that I had with him and picked out caveats that spoke about life and about people and about how to behave a certain way or about how to look at something historically.
In a way, it's kind of Tuesdays with Maury more than it is one of these tell-all books, Dinner with DiMaggio. You know, what happens with people who discover each other and have a really, a deep friendship evolves? And Tuesdays with Maury is that story. And so, in a way, you and DiMaggio are that story, I think.
In many respects, of course, Joe was very much the teacher, and I was the student.
Why is that?
Because he took the time to explain to me about relationships, how to be careful with people, not always be so out there, to be careful about what you share with people. In many respects, Joe took me under his wing, and he took the time to teach me how to think really, really hard about situations, to think about what's around the corner. These were very much street smart types of things. Now, he knew I had the upbringing because I was a nice Brooklyn boy, and he knew I was a street kid, and he knew I spent a lot of time out in the streets, got into enough scraps with people, as you can imagine, to know how to deal with people. But Joe took that type of an interest in me where he wanted to share his life experiences with me about what to watch out for. That was an invaluable experience.
Well, what did you, certainly he was famous. You're in the company of someone who was a kind of genius at what he did. If you move those things aside, what did you like about him?
What I loved about him, he was so personable. People always painted him as being aloof and cheap and this and that, and of course, these were people that never had the privilege and honor to sit down at the dinner table with DiMaggio. I had that privilege, and I got to see that warm, loving, sincere, kind, caring, articulate, funny American icon. And that was one of the things that I always remembered as being, my goodness, here's an American icon that people don't know anything about, and he's talking to me about simple things that mean a lot to people. He was talking to me about Beanie Babies. He's talking to me about Coolio's Gangsta Paradise, stuff that everybody else would talk about with their kids or their grandkids. and I really found it amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, he knew about politics. He knew about sports. He knew about entertainment. He knew about the movies. This man was an absolute brilliant person. He could have easily have been a scholar at any one of the major universities.
That's so interesting. The book is called, by our guest, the foot specialist, Dr. Rock Positano in New York, Dinner with DiMaggio. I wonder, he had an attractive part of himself physically and all that. But what do you think Marilyn Monroe saw in him? Was there a safety? I think she probably wanted to feel safe. Maybe he did too.
That was a big part of it, Faith, which is what I think also with the relationship with Joe and I was about. When Joe cared about somebody, he was able to nurture them, to protect them, make them feel good about themselves. And Joe had that ability to do that with people. And clearly he was very concerned and very worried and doting on Marilyn Monroe for many reasons, because first and foremost, he clearly loved her and cared about her. People asked, what was the relationship with you guys? I said, it was very much similar to that. Towards the last 4 or 5 years of our relationship, Joe felt very protected by me. He had a level of comfort and protection with me that allowed him to enjoy himself, particularly in New York. What the book is really about, Faith, it's really a snapshot of DiMaggio's last 9 years of New York City. The key thing, it spoke about what a great town this was. Because remember something, Faith, when Joe was playing baseball for the New York Yankees and playing center field, he couldn't go anywhere without being mobbed.
Yeah.
What we were able to provide for Joe for that last 8 or 9 years, and this is myself and the other members of what we call the Bat Pack, who are also a bunch of restaurateurs, Mario Faustini, Nat Racine, people that had a great restaurant up in Scarsdale area, Eastchester area, and we were all able to make Joe feel comfortable and safe.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a treasure. I think that came from everybody's background where that kind of loyalty is really treasured. I wish we didn't have to run, Rock. This is Dr. Rock Positano, who is author of the book Dinner with DiMaggio. It's so, so interesting. And Dr. Positano, the foot specialist, is director of the non-surgical foot and ankle service and the Joe DiMaggio Sports Foot and Ankle Center at the Hospital for Special Surgery in New York City. Graduated from Yale University School of Medicine and is really quite something. Dr. Positano, thank you so much for being with us, and best of luck with this book on the memories of an American hero. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And, of course, how appropriate that this book is also about Joe's culinary expertise. He was
I know it.
Joe was an absolute connoisseur, and he was a snob when it came to culinary stuff. So it's very appropriate that he had his special spots in New York City to go and eat.
That's interesting because snob is another word for someone with taste. I would argue that you too, Rock, are particular about whether something's good or not. It's not the fanciness of the thing, it's whether it's really good. So thank you so much for being on the show.
And thank you so much. You have a great program, and keep up the great work. I enjoy listening to you guys and gals, so keep it up.
We will. Thank you so much, Rock, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. We're on WNPR, Thursdays at 3 and Saturdays at noon. Weekdays, listen for my 60-second food schmoozes. Never, my friends, eat more than you can lift. In New Haven, I'm Faith Middleton.
Everybody eats when they come to mind.
Thanks for listening to the podcast on your schedule. And when you need a little party in your life, we're here and online all the time at foodschmooze.org. And of course, also on Facebook at Faith Middleton Food Schmooze. See you there.